and you will never leave me.
Well, let's just go home now, shall we? Ah. So my dad's birthday is May 31st, and he passed away 11 years ago on Father's Day. That weekend. And maybe a week, like the week of the 31st, I looked at Chris and I was like, I'm struggling. And she said, honey, it's that time of year. It's that time of year. Those relationships are so complicated, aren't they? On so many levels. And so, as you know, especially when you're coming to a spiritual community and you think that you're going to be talking about Father, you know, what comes into mind? Our Father. How do you fill in the rest? Depending on your upbringing, there's lots of variations. One of them is this person, deity, sitting on a throne. The Father who art in heaven. And then maybe we have Jesus or Buddha that fills that space of whatever that understanding of Father might be. And then there's the Father that we maybe know, or the Father maybe we didn't know. But somewhere in all of that, there is this divine idea of Father. Can you feel that with me? That it's not something elusive, it's not something out there. The divine idea of Father isn't just inhabited by my dad. It's also inhabited in me, and it's inhabited in you, and it's available to all of us. It's not some deity on a throne, even if that throne lives in the very seat of our heart. It's something that's actually tangible. It's something that's inviting us to stand as something. And the idea being that we put all these restrictions on what Father is, based on whatever our life experience might have been. It's good, it's bad, it's complex. I did it, right? It's complicated. The truth is that the divine idea of Father is limitless. It is not limited by what you may have already experienced in your life. Are you open to experiencing the divine idea of Father in a different way? Because that's really what spiritual teachings invite us into, to continue growing, to continue evolving, to continue discovering something that perhaps we didn't understand before. And so, you know, it's interesting what's going on in our world right now. I went online. It's interesting. I realized I don't often give Father Day talks. I think it's because I get too emotional. So on some level, I've just always had guest speakers on Father's Day. So I realized I hadn't done a talk on Father's Day since 2017. And I was looking at what that talk was, and I had some quotes in there, and I wanted to go and double check references. No, I'm okay, thanks. I'm okay. I wanted to go and double check references, and I couldn't find them anymore, which was interesting. What I could find about the divine masculine was all this intense polarity around masculinity and femininity. And I mean, it is very alive right now in our culture. There's a whole world on TikTok which is filled with what one side of the spectrum would call toxic masculinity and the other side would call traditional masculinity. It's kind of everywhere. And I loved what Gabe said, that there's this place, this space where we are being invited into the limitless potential of Father, and it has nothing to do with biology. So why I love this image of the yin yang is because it kind of takes the biology out of it. It's yin and it's yang. It is the activation principle and it is the reception principle. And if you'll notice, within the active principle, there's that little dot of receptivity. And within the receptivity principle, there is that little dot of activation. We are never just one thing. We have wholeness available to us, and that's what we teach at Unity is wholeness, right? So my question for you is, where is your life activated from? Is it activated from this place of understanding your wholeness? Or are you limiting your understanding of who you actually are because you've decided that the titles that we have given ourselves, teacher, mother, father, student, pupil, grandchild, whatever they are, how are you limiting how you might be able to show up in this world? And so one of the things that always comes up is this idea between the ego idea of what perhaps the divine masculine might be versus the divine idea of what the divine masculine might be. And the invitation is always for us to go deeper than just what our personality might be attached to. I love my father, but he was a difficult man sometimes. That was him. That wasn't the principle of divine masculinity. Does that make sense? And I will never forget the moment when he showed up as the divine masculine for me. I was in the midst of the breakup that broke me open. And he could tell how much I was struggling. And my father, who I loved him, but he had the emotional intelligence of like an ant, said to me, I don't know what to do for you, but if I could, I would take all of your pain. Something happened for him in that moment where he let go of what he thought father was supposed to be, right? Strong, assertive. I'm the one who's supposed to shove you out into the world. I'm the one who's going to make sure that you know how to survive in the world. I'm the one who's going to make sure that you aren't, soft, that you are prepared for whatever the world is going to send your way. And in that moment, something else came through him. And it was so healing for me. Because, of course, he couldn't take my pain away, but just the idea that somebody would be willing to do that, just the willingness. So I talked about this last week, about how we're being invited to activate our intuition and our spiritual self-reliance. And this idea of spiritual self-reliance means that we are aware that there is something that is larger than just our ego. There is something that we actually are that is larger than our ego. But notice it's intuition and spiritual self-reliance. We need both. We need the yin-yang. If we are just standing in our decisiveness and our rational thought and our love of structure and our get-it-done kind of way, and we disconnect from that deeper understanding of who we are, what you get is kind of what we see in the world all around us. where people's priorities are focused on the getting of things, focused on what they personally can accomplish, rather than what is in the best interests of the entire world. So that transformation actually can start with us. It can actually begin here. Because what we know in unity is there's only one mind, there's only one heart, there's only one breath, there's only oneness, and what's alive in me right here is actually available everywhere. So when Linda and I, in my book, talk about this idea of being a divine human, there is nothing wrong with your ego. There is nothing wrong with your personality. Everyone breathe into that for a second, because I know we don't really believe that. But there is nothing wrong with your personality, with your ego, the part of you that worries about what you look like when you put on your outfit, the part of you that is concerned about things that are happening to you and only to you. There is nothing wrong with that part of yourself. What we are looking to be and become is an integrated divine human. We don't have to leave our humanness at the door. I personally love my personality. Not everybody does, but I do. I don't want that to be diluted or dismissed or diminished. The idea behind being a divine human is that our spiritual capacity it enhances and supports and nourishes that sense of self that we carry into the world. Now, this is a radical shift from a lot of what you'll get out there in spiritual community, where you have to eradicate the ego, make the ego submit. And I want to invite us into something that's much gentler, where we get to let our life experience be part of how we make decisions. But at the same time, we're also in touch with intuition and wisdom and possibility. Our life experience doesn't become the only thing that is guiding our decisions. It's really, wholeness, integration, wholeness. I'll say those words over and over and over again. Integrating the wholeness that you already are. I just want to go back. You don't have to become any of these things. You already are courage, you already are resilience, you already have flow, you already have vision, you already are compassion. All of this is already yours. But it's how we are willing to access it that creates these challenges and these limitations where we don't get to fulfill our heart's desire. We sell ourselves short over and over and over again because we think, oh, I can't be that. Walt Whitman said, I contain multitudes. Your heart can never have what it longs for when it is full of what you have settled for. So last week I talked about the life visioning process, and it's interesting because as I was sitting with this talk, I realized, and the workshop that we had, amazing questions and amazing discussion that came up, and one of the pieces that really arose was this idea of integration, that our ego isn't the bad guy, and that we get to listen. So if you look at the process, what you'll see is that the first step is a receptive place, where all we're doing is asking a question. What is the divine idea of my life? And then we get to ask the part that our more activated self will enjoy. What do I need to become? What's seeking to be revealed about me? What do I need to release about me? What do I already have that I can activate, that I can bring into this situation? And can you feel how this is that's why this process is so powerful, is because it is an integrated, balanced approach that allows the yin-yang that we are to dance together. So Just briefly, I know not everybody was here last week. We're all on vacation, right? So when we're visioning, we're asking the question, what is the divine idea of my life? And we're trying to let the ego go. We're trying to let the idea that we already think we know what it is that we're supposed to be and do, letting it go. And we open into just this space of receptivity. And what we might catch might kind of feel like this. It's like, it's blue. I have no idea what it is. I have no idea what it is. But then we vision again, and we get a couple more pieces. We still don't know what it is, but we're getting more information. We still don't know what it is. But again, are we starting to get a sense that there is a pattern here? There is something that we can begin to allow the activated part of ourselves to get a handle on. And then we keep going until eventually something emerges that just we go, oh, there it is. I shared a story at Agape. So Agape was founded on the visioning process. So a group of people got together, they visioned what would a spiritual community look like, and that was how Agape was born. And everything at Agape starts with the visioning process, everything. And so my graduating practitioner class, there's a tradition that the graduating practitioner class creates the installation for the practitioner class coming behind us. And so my practitioner class started visioning. We started off once a month, and then as we got closer to the date, we were doing more and more visioning sessions on the phone, all on the phone, because we were all scattered everywhere. And the thing I kept catching over and over and over again was a Ferris wheel at night in the dark, all lit up. This was a spiritual initiation process. Where does a Ferris wheel, in the dark come into play? I kept seeing it every visioning. They would say, "What did you catch?" And I'd be like, "I got that Ferris wheel again." We had no idea why the Ferris wheel kept showing up, and we didn't worry about it. We get to the day where we're trying to put everything together, and we set everything up the way we had decided with our ego selves what it should look like in the room, and it sucked. It was awful. It totally did not work. Anybody know that feeling? All right, totally didn't work. And we're sitting there thinking, okay, how can we reinvent this? What are we going to do? And we were like, okay, we've got some dividers and we've got lights. Let's string the lights. Let's sort of create a space. And the next thing you know, as we finish and step back, is somebody turned to me and said, "There's the Ferris wheel." And it was the Ferris wheel on the ground with a center of string of lights all around it, and these spokes of light coming off of it, and then another ring of lights all around the outside edge. And it looked like a Ferris wheel sitting on the ground. It's not a logical process, but can you see how there was an interaction, a balanced interaction between the receptivity and the activity? And the willing to let go of what the ego thought was going to work as soon as we realized it wasn't going to work. A willingness to re-engage. So Charles Fillmore says, when you get a strong perception of something that your inner mind tells you is true and good, act on it. Because that's the divine masculine. Act on it. And then the question that came up in the workshop was, well, how do you know? How do you know if it's a divine idea or it's an ego idea? How do you know? So one way I will say that you can tell is that your ego ideas, and let me be clear, your ego ideas are not bad. Your ego ideas are awesome. Your ego ideas are going to feel like you can accomplish them. You're going to be able to be like, okay, we're going to do that, and I see step A, step B, step C, and I know I can accomplish it. The divine idea, you are going to have no idea how you could possibly make that happen. Because you have to become something that you're not allowing to fully express right now in order for that to actually become manifest. Does that make sense? So your ego ideas actually keep the status quo. Can you feel that? Divine ideas that freak us out in a good way are the ones that push us forward. And that is the true divine masculine. The true divine masculine isn't about the to-do list that I check off that I get done because my mind is saying that and that and that and that. The true divine masculine is that which pulls us into something that is completely different and new. And so really quickly, this also came up, and I want to really address this because I think it's really powerful. The difference between visualizing and visioning, because what we were working on was visioning. Visualizing, how many people in here have done a vision board? Done something where you've sort of created the vision of a visual representation of what it is that we want in our life, right? So that's visualizing. And visioning is what I showed you, where we just ask questions. And we invite something to emerge with patience and compassion. Can you feel how different they are? So where they come from is from different levels of consciousness, right? So, and I've shared this before, so we have victim consciousness, which is where we think everything happens to me. We have victor or manifestor consciousness, where we think everything happens by me. I'm going to get that done. I can do that. Anybody in here relate to that? All right? And then we have channel, where things happen through me. Anytime you feel like you hear yourself saying, like, I don't know what came out of my mouth. Something else took over. That's channel consciousness. And then what we are all here to attempt to live into as fully and as powerfully as we can is the as me. That's the integrated divine human. Jesus did this. He walked amongst us. He did not sit on a cushion somewhere. He walked amongst us. He interacted with people. His eyes were wide open as he lived into the I am. That's what we are being invited to in our day-to-day. So visualizing, which is a powerful practice, don't get me wrong. Again, there's no wrong here. Visualizing, can you feel how it's part of the by me? I'm deciding what I want my house to look like, and I'm going to build pictures of it, and then I'm the one in control of everything. And visioning is part of this channel as me, right? It's opening up to the something. So visioning is what allows us to become spiritually self-reliant, because we begin to trust that there is something larger than us, than our ego self, that we can activate and use and be present with. So how do you know if it's the ego or if it's our divine self? As I said in the class, you just start to figure it out. Everybody's journey is different, so you just need to be curious. You need to be willing to explore. You need to be willing to screw it up. Anybody in here willing to screw it up? You got to be willing to screw it up. You have to have a lot of courage and commitment and allowing experience to guide us, but not because we want an end result, but because the experience is helping us to understand how we, from a human understanding, actually can be divine. I call it almost breaking the code. We have to break the code down so that we are integrated. We understand what we're feeling or catching, there's no one answer to this. And the biggest thing is there are no mistakes. There are no mistakes. I moved to LA thinking I was going to play a minister on TV. But while I was there, I found agape. No mistakes. My ego took me to LA. My ego thought, this is where I'm going to get my career going. This is, right, all that stuff. And at the same time, something else was also operating. So that I landed at Agape, and all of a sudden I realized I'm not going to play a minister on TV. I'm actually going to be one. So there are no mistakes, right? Even if it is your ego, quote unquote, leading you, just be open and explore and listen and discover. So I want to leave you with this quote. I found this. This goes back to there's just so much tension right now between this idea of masculine and feminine, and the divine masculine and the divine feminine. Spiritual maturity is about nurturing, honoring, and balancing both sides of our nature. And all men, women, non-binary, trans people possess both the masculine and feminine aspects within. Ignoring, suppressing, demonizing, or treating one type of energy as less than another is spiritually immature and ultimately creates suffering. Don't give fuel to your shadow self. Don't perpetuate more division within the world. Learn how to awaken both types of energy within yourself in a healthy way. Can I get an amen? Because this is a place of division. You can feel it, right? And both sides, quote unquote, think that the other type is less than. Can you feel that too? What if there is no less than? What if there is no greater than? What if there is just balance and wholeness? That's it. We're all being invited to more balance, more wholeness, more truth. So let's take this into our time of meditation. Let's breathe into that place, that space that we know is the activator within, and maybe that activator has been linked to getting things done. So can we, in this moment, just choose to unhook it from that? That's a limiting idea. And instead, welcome the activator that is moving from a place of receptivity. That we are listening and responding. And we are responding with courage. We are responding with strength. We are responding with that capacity within each one of us to be strong and clear. Can you feel the fear falling away? And as we say yes to this, we are compassionately active in the world. We are able to manifest and demonstrate our greatest yet to be. We are able to hear and listen to what is ours to do and when and how we are called to do it. And it is not coming from a sense of self with a small s, but it is arising from the I am that we all are. So I invite you right now to just be the yin yang. Be the receptive with the active and the active with the receptive. And just allowing that energy to inform you as we take a few moments and rest together, listening, actively listening in the silence. And it's from this space of infinite potential that I'm just going to invite you to embrace yourself. Embrace all the aspects of yourself that you think need to be changed, that you think are obstacles to what it is that you are trying to achieve. And I'm just going to invite you to enfold all of you in this beautiful yin-yang, receptive, active, and to listen to what it is that you are called to do. What is it that you might need to let go of this day? What is it that you might need to own about yourself that you already know? And what is it that you know that you are being called forth to stand as in a whole new way? And just allow yourselves to commit right now to saying yes. Yes to whatever it is that you hear. Allowing yourself to trust. To trust that truly, when we are listening, everything makes itself known with ease and with grace. And so it is. Amen. Ashe.